Hi, my name is Andreas. I'm the founder of LangCorr, and then I'm a senior lecturer at Fredericia High School in Denmark. In today's webinar, I'm going to talk about formative feedback and digital marking. But first of all, I would like to thank you for choosing one of LangCorr's programs. Um, I'm confident that you will benefit a lot from that, and I'll try to show you why digital marking is it's a marvel basically. And while you watch this video, you can also chat with us online. Just use the chat button that you can see on your screen. Um, and you can also chat with us after this video. So the idea here is that you can watch this webinar on sort of the didactic approach that we have at LangCorr, that we have for our programs. And then I'll show you how to install the program and how it works. And then you can actually mark one of your own student papers while we're here helping you, so that you can become comfortable using the program. But let me just start here, and I'll start by telling you why. Well, I'm so fond of being a teacher myself. Um, I find our job to be one of the most important and rewarding jobs that you can actually have. I've been teaching for 12 years now, and well, every year is just it's wonderful. But of course, there are certain sort of time-consuming and very sort of quite often they're also quite unproductive tasks that we also have to do from time to time, and quite often actually. And one of those tasks is marking papers. And so today's focus here will be on formative feedback strategies and sort of simple digital tools that we can use to make that task, that marking the task of marking papers, how we can make that efficient. I'm also going to start out by focusing on the time-consuming nature of written feedback and our work-life balance, which is strained to the limit. At least if you look at the survey from the UK, it was from last year, which actually shows that that teachers in the UK, they work close to 60 hours a week. That would be primary school teachers, and if we look at teachers from secondary schools, they're following close behind at 55.7 hours a week. And if you look at how many hours they spent marking papers, we are actually close to 10 hours a week. Well, 60 hours a week. I mean, that's well above an average work week, isn't it? And when you spend 10 of those hours marking papers, then we need to consider how we can make the most of this time, and whether we can actually reduce the time that we spend marking, so that we don't become that fellow that you can't see here in this picture who needs urgent assistance. So today's lecture here, or webinar if you will, I'll show you how I used to mark papers. I'll talk a little bit about feedback strategies. Then I'll give you a demonstration of the basic functions in Language Corrector. And while I do this, you can ask us questions. You can ask questions in using the chat button, which you can also do afterwards. This is how I used to mark papers. I spent endless hours marking papers, and this is what it looked like. This is what it looked like. It was this sort of unholy mix of various error codes and just utter chaos. And you can see that this doesn't really make much sense, does it? Even I mean, when I look at this now, I mean, I can't really sort of begin to understand what I was getting at the time. And then you can imagine if you're a student, and you I suppose you wouldn't understand anything either. Um, and quite, I mean, that took about a year too, and then I began using systematic error codes. So I came up with this clever design here, clever design where I started using various codes for various errors. So let's say a student had a problem with a verb form, and then I would write VF for that. Um, and I also tried using color codes in a similar way, where I said that problems with verbs should be corrected with a yellow color, and I tried various things. The problem though was that it was just too general. If I wrote verb form, I mean, what was that? I mean, it wasn't precise enough, and the students couldn't really use it for anything. Um, I'll try to show you that by using this cartoon here. We've got this teacher saying that, well, she's teaching English interrogative constructions, and what she says is here, she says that the auxiliary verb which normally appears after the subject must move to sentence initial position, which is all very good, but the problem is that her student here uh, says that, well, what's a verb? That's a question. So the clever explanation that she gives us isn't really going to work, because the student doesn't know what a verb is, and this is what I experienced as well. What I experienced was that when I wrote VF for verb form, then the student didn't really understand what I was getting at. Um, so we have to consider student proficiency levels at the same time when that we mark papers, and we have to be really precise so that our students know what we're getting at. So the outcome, what I experienced was that my students didn't really learn that much, and I could hardly detect any kind of progression. They didn't progress in any way. I wasn't really, I couldn't detect sort of whether or not I was affecting future behavior in terms of writing actions. They didn't really change their ways in any way. My conclusion was that the results that I got were at best limited. And what I also discovered was that something really demotivating was that when I handed back papers, I think all teachers have experienced this. That when I handed back papers to my students, then what happened when they left the room was that half the papers were still on their desks, and I could pick them up and I could say, well, I spent half an hour on that one, I spent an hour on that one, and so on. So I was just basically I was just wasting my time. Um, so I began investigating. Investigating various sort of scholarly approaches to feedback strategies, and I started out reading Valerie Shute, who talked about formative evaluation as a solution, and she defines formative evaluation in this way here. She says that it's information communicated to the learner that is intended to modify his or her thinking or behavior for the purpose of improving learning, which is all very good. But the question though is, how do we ensure that the students use the feedback and just, well, actually, that they don't sort of leave it behind and ignore it? And what kind of feedback should we then give to our students? And that was another question. So I began investigating various sort of feedback strategies, and I started out with the Chomsky approach, the nativistic theory, which says that language is sort of built into you as an innate faculty. So the idea is that you don't correct anything. You just make sure that your students read, write, speak, listen, all that. You just keep doing it non-stop, and eventually they'll get it because it's built into them. So the role that we have being a teacher, is that we just have to ensure that happens. So so this is what I've tried to show by using by choosing this guy here, saying, well, you're doing great. So you just have to motivate your students. Then on the other hand, you've got behaviorism, which says that language should be trained through a system of reinforcement. So if they don't perform the way that you want them to perform, you should give them negative feedback. And if they do what you like, what you want them to do, then you should give them positive feedback. So that's the different kind of a different kind of approach where you correct everything. Um, LangCorr, well, what we do is we position ourselves in the middle here, and our idea is that feedback should always be positive and constructive. I mean, it's highly demotivating for a student if you give them negative feedback, and we should always take individuals into account. So we need to differentiate between our students to ensure that they actually learn something, and we consider feedback as a springboard to improve. So our basic assumption at LangCorr is a really positive assumption, is that the learner needs the feedback, the learner receives the feedback receives the feedback and has time to use it, and that the learner is willing and able to use the feedback. That would be Sattler from, I think he teaches at Edinburgh University. It's a really positive approach to feedback, which can actually work if you give your feedback in the right way. So the idea is that we use it as a springboard for students to proactively improve their own performance. And what we do is we try to facilitate focused and elaborate and precise feedback that students can then actively use to correct and also to rewrite their own texts, which is really important because otherwise they'll just ignore it. So you need to facilitate that for your students so that they can actually work with their own products. Secondly, we try to make sure that students can approach their problematic areas from different angles. So we include comments and movies and exercises and games in Language Corrector. This is what we've done. So you have easy access to comments, movies, exercises and games, because students really like exercise and they really like games as well, and they learn a lot from that. Scholars tend to categorize feedback according to these boxes here. They put feedback in these boxes. So the easiest kind of feedback would be the problem identifying. This is where you just underline an error. That's the simplest form of problem identifying feedback. You could also be inquisitive, where you try to start some sort of communication with your student regarding the text, trying to engage your student to think about their errors and the way that they write. Then you can be instructive. So this is where you take the problem identifying feedback, and you inform your student that he has made an error, and then you tell him exactly how he can correct that error, so that the next time he can change his ways. The last category here is the qualifying kind of feedback, where the idea is that your feedback should actually modify future behavior by making your student reflect on a certain topic. But as you can see, all of these categories are categories that will take a long time to, if you have to use them, it will take a long time to write those comments, except for the problem identifying one, of course. So the question is whether it's possible. Also, besides taking a long time to write down those comments, then it will take a long time to find exercises, appropriate exercises in movies and games. That will take a long time to find for the teacher, and to actually apply to each student paper according to that student's needs. And if you take shortcuts, then what I demonstrated before is that the outcome is at best limited. So the question is, are you then in fact wasting your time? And if you have to sort of give this sort of elaborate feedback, then the question is, whether do we actually have the time for it, because our work-life balance is already strained to the limit. The first thing that we as teachers can do, which is very very complicated and difficult, is that I mean it's sort of we have to control that marker, because as being teachers, it's almost like built into us that when we see an error, we want to correct it. I mean, it just itches when you see that error and you want to do something about it. You want to underline it. You want to write something, and that's all. It's all good. But the problem is that we as teachers, we can handle all sorts of various parameters when we mark papers, or all sorts of error types, whereas students, being students, that means they can only handle a sort of a limited number of parameters. So if you start correcting everything, then your students will simply give up. If they receive, if they get the paper back, all sort of with loads of various corrections, then they'll give up. So we need to focus our attention on certain sort of problematic areas that we want them to focus on, and then the next time we can focus on the next thing. So we need to be focused, and the answer here to sort of to giving elaborate and to having the necessary time to give elaborate feedback and focused feedback is digital marking. Because what we found out is that students, they make the same mistakes over and over again, and we write, as teachers, we write the same explanations over and over again. So what we did was that we analyzed thousands of papers in various subjects, and then we discovered that almost all errors can be addressed by as little as approximately 200 comments, and so the answer to giving feedback, giving elaborate and necessary feedback, is to use predefined comments, because then you can actually make the task manageable, and you can reduce the time that you spend marking papers at the same time. So that's the idea. So what we did was that we took those 200 comments for each subject. At the moment, the subjects, they cover English, Spanish, French, German, Italian, Danish, and we are sort of we are continuously we are adding subjects. But what we did is that we took the comments, and then we've organized them into a simple program where teachers can easily access those comments. It's an add-on for Microsoft Word, and with just 2 clicks you can access any comment. So you can actually, and you can add comments if you feel that there's one that isn't there that should be there, and if there's one that you don't like, you can just modify it or delete it. And you can keep track of the student's progression, so you can actually see, is a particular student making the same mistakes over and over again? Do you need to do something extra in order to ensure that student actually works on a certain topic? And then you can add reports, stats reports, and grades, and exercises, movies, and games. And what this means is that when you hand back papers to your students, then the good students, the proficient ones, they can actually begin correcting their own papers using your comments, your exercises, your movies. They can do that on their own, while you as a teacher, you can actually focus on the students who need your time, who need help, who need more assistance from you. So that's really a good thing, because then you can differentiate between your students in that way, and ensure that everybody moves to the next level from there. Also, we've ensured that you have easy access to online resources like dictionaries and web browsers, search engines like Google and things like that. So that's another thing. I'll show you that in a minute. So the two main benefits that you get when you use a language corrector is that, first of all, the most important thing is that your students, they will get better feedback, because you will have more time to give it, and you won't have to write everything over and over again. And also, you can save a lot of time marking papers, well, compared to what you've previously spent on it. Because when we ask the teachers who use language corrector, then they say that they save approximately 30% of the time that they spend marking. And the surveys that we've done here is in the beginning of the period that they began using language corrector. And what this means is that the more they get used to the program, the more time they'll save. So 30% is definitely a conservative estimate. And if you translate that into hours and days, then in the UK we would be talking about 120 hours that you can save every year, which is, well, 16 days. So that you can spend on other things. I mean, you can improve your students in other ways, and then which is a marvelous thing. So you get better feedback and you save time at the same time. What I'll do now is that I'll show you how the program works, and I'll go to a Word document. Just find it here. Here we go. I'll show you how it works. This is just the Word program, and I've written a few sentences that a student could also write, with a few errors in it. And then I've done is I've activated the LangCorr language corrector toolbar, and you can find it up here. It's integrated into Microsoft Word, and what you can see up here, or with the colors here, is you can see that all of these buttons that you can see are what we call category buttons. So what we've done is that, for instance, for verb forms, we've sort of collected all the necessary, or well, some of the necessary comments, because there might be more comments for verb forms. So if you press that one, then you can see various comments that you can activate. But let's give it a shot here. This is like the typical one. I think we've all seen that one, haven't we? I don't know which one it is. So which one? Typical spelling error, isn't it? So we find the spelling category. Here we go, and then you find the right comment, which and which. There you go. So you just press it, and there you go. Automatically, you see that a comment is generated, where you can see it says here, spelling error, which one of you is a which? Look it up. So you can actually pick, you can use your own personal style here. This is my personal style. I like to well, make some fun when I mark papers as well. But if you don't like that style, you can just change the comment. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Here's another error here. I wish I was famous. So if this is a subjunctive, the subjunctive mood that should be used. So I'll go to Concord, and I find the hypothetical subjunctive mood. Here we go, and automatically this comment is generated in hypothetical or non-factual clauses, you must use the subjunctive mood, e.g., I wish that I were better at football. Check your grammar book. And then also what we've done is we've made our own little films here. So your student can actually activate a film. I'll show you how that works. So you press Control, and then you press the link, and then automatically it starts a LangCorr film. So there you go. So you get, so your students will get a film that addresses that exact problem that they have. We've got films for the most important comments. Well, let me just go back to the document. So that's one thing that your student can use. Then let's say you're a German teacher and you want to correct something here. Here we've got typical one, Mädchen. It sounds feminine, but it's really not. It's neuter. So we switch to a different profile. This is at the moment you've only got, when you start using the profile, you only have access to the GB English and the US English, two Danish profiles, but you can then download more subjects here. So this is these are all the Danish ones to start with. We've got a lot of English ones here, some Spanish ones, some French ones, and German ones, and Italian. But in this case, let's go for we'll download this profile here, GB German. There you go. So we'll download that one. There you go. So now this correction profile, the subject, is now part of your program, and you can use it. So in this case, I would say we're dealing with articles. Here we go. We find Chen and line are neuter. So we press that one, and we get a comment here that says articles, words that end in Chen or line are typically neuter. So your student can use that information to change the article into das. So that's the basic functionality, and the idea is that before you had to write all of these comments yourself. I mean, imagine if you had to write this one, this comment. Just imagine that you have to write like, well, 15, 16 comments for each paper, and if you have to give elaborate feedback, then this will take an awful lot of time. So you can imagine, well, this one would take, well, let's say around 30 seconds. If you're fast, it will take about around 30 seconds to write this one. So if you have to do that 16 times for each paper, then we're talking about a lot of time. Now instead of using 30 seconds, then I just have to find the concord, or I have to switch back to the English one. Here we go. Find the concord and the hypothetical subjunctive mood and press it, and there you go. So we're talking about 3-4 seconds and no more. So you save a lot of time in that way. Let's say that, for instance, this one, you don't like this one. This is my personal style, and you want your own personal style in this one. So what you do is you press the edit menu. This is where you can edit all the comments. So we go to spelling. So these are all the categories buttons. We go to spelling. Here we go. Spelling. Say begin edit. There you have all of the sub comments. We find which and which, and here you go. Here it is. So you can just write anything you like. So I'll just write just so that I don't forget to correct it afterwards. But anyway, we just press this one. Then the next time you use this comment, then we go to spell, and we press this one again. Here you go. You see that little test thing that we wrote before. It's now there. So you can just about correct anything. And now for the next time you use this one, this is going to be the comment as well. So it's really easy to change things in this toolbar in here. The toolbar, not the toolbar, the edit menu is really it's really simple to use. And when you're done, when you've let's say that in in the if you are a group of English teachers and you want to use the same profile, then what you can do is you can save your profile as a file, and then you can send it to each other, and you can load your profile. So what you do is you just save the profile as a file when you've made your modifications, and you just save it to your desktop or somewhere, and then you can mail them to each other, and then upload, and the others can upload it. You can also, if you want to, you can start an entirely new profile. So just there you go. So it's just now it's just an empty profile. You can give it a name up here, and you can begin adding buttons. You can begin adding sub buttons. Here you go. And then you see what. Let's see what that will look like. So here you go. This is what we did. And you can begin making your own toolbar. So that's really simple. Here you go. So that's the basic ideas, and if you need additional profiles, you can also use this one. So if you find that, well, let's say you need to teach Spanish, then you can choose this profile here, GB Spanish plus films, or you can choose this one if you want. You can get sort of Spanish with Spanish comments, so they are all there for you. There you go. Then let's say there's a word that where you have doubts about whether it can be used in that context or something. Let's just pretend that we don't know the word Mädchen. So what we do is we just press our dictionary, and here we go. Immediately we get the definition of Mädchen. So that works. That's quite neat actually, because then you don't have to switch browsers or anything. Let's say you are in doubt about whether a student has plagiarized something. So what you can do is you can highlight an entire passage or paragraph or something, or just a few words, and then you can ask web. There you go. And then it will pop up if they've stolen it somewhere, then it will pop up, and you can see whether it's plagiarism or not. And that's sort of the main functions. If you want to write directly in a student's document, you can use track changes. So you activate that one, and then when you write, you'll see that it's easy to see that this is your comments that you've inserted directly into the text, and then you can just deactivate it. There you go. Off. So if you write now, then you won't be able to see it. You can also use the keyboard hotkeys if there are some comments that you use a lot. So let's say I use this one a lot. So I know that this is called Alt. These are just the regular hotkeys for Microsoft Word. Then we've got the LangCorr one here. Press X, and then 6 for track changes, and then it's activated. So there you go. And if I don't want to, if I want to deactivate it, I press Alt X6 again, and it's just regular letters again. So that's the way that works. Now that we are done, let's say we're done correcting this student paper here. Then what we can do is we can actually check the stats. So we activate the stats menu. Here we go. And what we see here is that you can see the comments that you've activated, and you can then put them into the student paper. And if you notice that there were certain things that where your students are struggling, then you can give them some additional exercise. You can give them some exercises. So in this case, there were some Concord errors. So what I'll do is I'll give them, Concord is also called SP agreement. So I'll give them a few errors there. I'll give them a few exercises. Here we go. And when you want to print the report, you are also asked whether you want to save the comments online and make them available for your student progress view later. So I'll do that. So you can enter the class and the students. In this case, I'll give this one to Ahmed, one of the students that I taught last year. He's not at my school anymore, so I don't think he'll bother that much. It'll worry him that much. So here we go. So I saved the progress. I'm asked about the grade. So this is only we're talking about numbers only here because you want to calculate it afterwards. So I'll give him, let's say, an A could be like you can make your own translations, but that in Danish that would be 12. And then the time spent on this paper, the student hours, I'll give them, let's just say 1 hour, and then you save the grades. Now this report has been saved in the system. So next time when Ahmed, when he hands in the paper, then I can actually see his report. So this is what we call track student. So here's Ahmed, and I can view his progress. So these were the last reports here. So I'll press this one next. So I can actually see the kinds of errors that he actually had problems with last time, and I can see whether we're talking about the same kinds of errors or what. And I can see the grades and the time that he has spent. Then I can also get his average grade for all his assignment, and at the moment he's at something called 8.4, and then you use your own translation of those grades, and then you can see what kind of grade you want to give him by the end of the year. And that's basically it. This is how the program works. So it's really simple, and that's the point. One last feature that I want to show you is, if let's say there's a comment that isn't in the system and you don't want to have it in the system because you know that you're only going to use it one time, then you can press this one, new comment. So you can write something here, and this is only going to be shown this one time. It won't be stored anywhere. So here you go. So you get the comment here. So it's an easy access to that comment. This is really the key thing about this program, is that what it does is that it just takes all the things that I, as a teacher, that I was annoyed about, something that took time out of my schedule, something that when I had to write things over and over again, all the things that annoyed me, and it just makes it easy. And that's really the key thing here, is that it just makes it easy, and it's simple. So this is why, and then another wonderful thing is that the students, they tend to love it, because before I would just write, at this, for let's say this error here. Here you go. I wish I was him. I would write SP, for instance. That would be it. I would write SP. Here you go. And the student wouldn't know what that was. They would know, well, SP. Well, normally he calls that subject predicator agreement thing. But in this case, I'm actually being quite precise here. So I'm telling that we're dealing with a hypothetical situation here. So you have to use the subjunctive mood, and I also show them that what that means by giving them the film. So they get a film that lasts about 2 minutes. So they actually get very precise feedback that they can use to learn something, to modify, to change the way that they understand this error here. So I'm much more precise than when I just wrote SP. So your students will improve in a way that well, at least I hadn't seen that coming actually when I started using this, that they actually improve quite a lot in very little time. So that's the idea behind this program. And now let's go to our website, and then I'll show you how you install this program if you haven't already done it. You go to our website, LangCorr.com. Well, you're already there, I suppose. And then you go to you can there are various ways that you can access it, but you go to Language Corrector. You could also do it down here. Here we go. That would be me teaching. You get an explanation here, and then you can press Try Language Corrector now. There we go. There are various options. You can try it for 2 months for free, or you can buy 1 year, 3 years. Most likely your school has already purchased one of these, but you just press it. Here we go. It's like buying a pair of socks or something on a web shop. So you add it to the cart, and you view the cart. And then if you have a school access key, if your school has been given a school access key, you can write it here and then apply the school access key. In this case I've chosen the 2 months for free program, and so well, it doesn't really matter. And then you proceed to checkout. There you go. And you just have to write down your contact information. And we won't contact you constantly. Don't worry about that. Because well, as you know, I'm a teacher as well, so I hate when people annoy me. So we won't do that either. So you just place the order, and the minute that you place the order, then you'll receive an email address with your access key and a download link, and then all you have to do is press that download link, and then it's automatically you just follow the information on the screen. It's downloaded, and you also get the product key. So, and then the first time you open Microsoft Word, then Microsoft Word will ask you for your email address, so it's the one that you inserted here, and then it'll ask you for the product key that you received, and then it works. So it's really simple, and you can use it in about, well, if you start now, then you can be using it in 5 minutes. And then when you've installed it, then please find one of your student papers, and then we'll be right here and help you to ensure that you become comfortable using the program. I really hope that you enjoyed watching this film, and I'm very much looking forward to helping you. And well, there were 2 of us helping you, so I'll just show you who the other person is. So if you go to the About Contact page, here we go. So that will be me, Andreas, and then Cecilia, who is our program manager. She knows all there is to know about Language Corrector. So she'll either she will help you or I will help you. And then yeah, just or you can ask just about anything, and if we can, we'll help you. And and if you want to watch this film again, you can always do it, and you can also come back for another webinar at another time. And so yeah, and you don't have to sign up or anything. But thank you very much for watching this film. I really hope that you'll appreciate using Language Corrector, and I just have well bye bye. Have a great day. Let me just